It's time for another half hour of Hatteberg's People.
And here's what's coming up.
Now, I don't make him into a saint. He had his weaknesses, but he did so much more than anybody's given him credit for.
Historian David Nichols of Winfield set the record straight about Dwight Eisenhower's role in the civil rights movement, and he got national attention for it. We'll revisit the story from 2007, plus...
It's just so much a part of me. It's really a monument to the people who built it.
Not enough parishioners and priests to keep it going. This magnificent church could have faced the wrecking ball. Learn how dedicated townsfolk step up and save it. Also,
a friend of mine said, you've got a terrible problem. Are you going to be on the radio live for an hour and you're just going to talk about Kansas? I don't know what you're going to talk about.
Gene Countryman proved the naysayers wrong in a big way. We'll go back to 2004 as he celebrated 15 years of doing a radio show unlike anyone else. And we'll have this.
People come here to treat themselves. When they stop at the hot dog cart, they're stopping to give themselves a treat, and they're in a good mood.
The year was 1984, and Phyllis Copt had become the first licensed street vendor in Kansas history. Larry was there. She was dishing out her dogs to the hungry throng. Hello, I'm Susan Peters.
And I'm Larry Hatteberg. Those are just some of the Kansas stories we'll revisit on this edition of Hatteberg's People. These stories are like old friends. Their lives radiate from the screen like prophets of the past. They were teachers, but not in a classroom. Instead, they taught about life to those around them who cared to listen, and I was their student.
Setting the record straight. That was the goal of historian David Nichols, setting out to correct what history had got wrong about Kansas native son Dwight Eisenhower.
Now, Nichols' groundbreaking book, A Matter of Justice, is about the Eisenhower administration and its record on civil rights. Now, in 2007, it attracted national interest. Up until then, most historians had portrayed Eisenhower at best as a bystander in the civil rights movement, or at worst, hostile towards the plight of African Americans. Nichols did the research and showed it was just simply not true.
Dwight D. Eisenhower had vaulted into the race for the highest post in the land.
Please understand, I don't make him into a saint. He had his weaknesses, but he did so much more than anybody's given him credit for.
Historian and author David Nichols of Winfield believes that President Eisenhower deserves more credit for the civil rights revolution.
We are moving closer to the goal of fair and equal treatment of citizens without regard to race or color.
Nichols is a former professor and academic dean at Southwestern College in Winfield. He loved his job, but history is his forte.
Only a handful of bystanders were there to see the 9 Negro students arrive in this Army vehicle the same way they went to and from school yesterday.
But I couldn't get past Little Rock. It didn't fit. Eisenhower's role in it just has not been told, or at least until my book comes out.
Nichols' book discusses the 1957 desegregation of Little Rock High School. It was here that Eisenhower, in a bold and unusual move, sent federal troops to Arkansas to enforce school integration.
I have today issued an executive order directing the use of troops under federal authority to aid in the execution of federal law at Little Rock, Arkansas.
Troops were on the ground by the time he made this speech.
In Nichols' research at the Eisenhower Library in Abilene, he found Eisenhower's role not only in Little Rock, but in the civil rights movement itself was little known or appreciated.
Mob rule cannot be allowed
to overwrite the decisions of the courts.
Working with Eisenhower's original papers, Nichols found that early assumptions about Eisenhower's involvement in civil rights were simply wrong. Eisenhower, Nichols says, was actually a leader in civil rights, and these newfound historical documents prove it.
It's the tip of the iceberg because he had desegregated the District of Columbia, he had finished desegregating the armed forces, he'd gotten civil rights legislation through just 4 days before that crisis in Little Rock broke out. So in a sense, this simply confirmed in a very dramatic fashion who he really was in terms of his attitude towards civil rights.
Good night, and thank you very much.
This has been a special address by the President of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower.
This Winfield historian is certainly being noticed nationally. He wrote a 2-page article in the U.S. News and World Report and will soon have an op-ed piece in the New York Times.
I haven't had any better in time in my entire life, and I'm 68 years old. Isn't that a neat thing to be able to say?
Nichols wrote 2 more books about Eisenhower in recent years and was considered one of the foremost experts on our 34th president. He passed away in 2022 at age 82. He was also a professor at Southwestern College in Winfield, and I remember going up with him to the Eisenhower Museum in Abilene while he was doing his research. And he would go up in the back research area that not many people are allowed, and they would bring him all these raft of papers so he could go through and work on it for a book. He was fascinating.
And he was meticulous going through his research
and
everything, was. Right?
Yes, yes.
And thank God he did.
He did, because
gave us an entirely different perspective.
Changed the view.
Mm-hmm. It's always a conundrum what to do with grand historic buildings that have outlived their intended purpose.
Well, folks in the tiny town of Pfeiffer were faced with that dilemma when the town's beloved church closed. It was the town's signature landmark, and suddenly its future was in doubt. Fortunately, people like Carol Billinger cared too much to let this amazing building and its history go by the wayside.
It's just so much a part of me. It's really a monument to the people who built it.
In Pfeiffer, Kansas, Carol Billinger is the postmaster.
We're in a little valley, and all the farmers, all they have to do is step outside and they can see the church. We really cannot let this church go. It's just so beautiful and so indescribable.
She's right. It was built by town folks of German-Russian heritage. They built it in 1918 at a cost of $56,000.
You see their hard work. You see the sacrifices that they went through, and you can't escape that. That's part of it.
In 1993, this magnificent church closed. Not enough priests, not enough people.
It's very painful, and it's very painful still. It doesn't go away.
But those who remained wouldn't give it up. Too many memories.
To me personally, this church has always been a sign of my faith.
We have never found a place that we felt at home like this church.
I was born here, I was raised here, I got married here, I raised my family here.
We've had so many people since we were closed come up to us and tell us, for heaven's sakes, don't let this thing go. If you need help, let us know, we'll help you.
Those who remained formed a nonprofit corporation. The doors now stay open through donations.
It makes it a joy to take care of it.
Rising like a monument to the human spirit, this church endures. Carol Billinger's workdays come and go, but the church remains as the community bedrock. The church that could not die lives on.
And together we're making progress.
The appreciation and dedication of those community-minded volunteers has carried on to the next generation. Their nonprofit group, Holy Cross Charities, continues to raise money for restoration and upkeep. Holy Cross Church is open for tours, as well as funerals, weddings, and other gatherings. It's so nice when the people of a community can get together and save these landmark churches, particularly in rural areas.
You can't tear buildings like that down.
No, they're part of the community landscape. They're part of the community mindset.
And they're pieces of art, really.
Oh, yes, they are. Yeah.
I'm glad they did what they did with Holy Cross.
Yep.
Even lifelong Kansans often don't know about all the good things this state has to offer. That's why Gene Countryman became so popular on a local radio station during the 1990s and 2000s.
Yeah, Gene was one of the biggest cheerleaders and shared his love of this state that is sometimes underappreciated.
It's exactly the way it was 15 years ago. It is exactly the way it was.
Hi, I'm Robin.
Here we go.
In a building where radio stations sprout like Kansas sunflowers, Gene Countryman's little talk show has been an oasis of positive Kansas information.
A very pleasant good morning to you, wherever you may be.
For 15 years, every Saturday morning at 10, Countryman, who grew up in Kansas radio, tells folks what's good about their state.
When I started the program, a friend of mine said, you've got a terrible problem. Are you going to be on the radio live for an hour and you're just going to talk about Kansas? I don't know what you're going to talk about because there isn't anything to do.
He's proven that friend wrong during his varied career. In his office home, his walls reflect a career in radio, television, and public relations. He created the Linger Longer Kansas Secrets and the Kansas campaigns to encourage Kansas tourism. He's been in some form of promotion most of his career, even living overseas in England, but has always come back to Kansas.
We talk to friends around the country, and we tell them what the weather is here today and what it's going to be and what it has been. You know, why more and more they're jealous of living here. Kansas has been the butt of jokes in a number of movies and television shows about how uninteresting and boring that it is, and parts of it, let's face it, are not very photogenic until you get to eastern Colorado, and then Kansas starts to look quite a bit better.
And while focusing this week on his anniversary, he's been trying to convince the state for years that our Western heritage is important to visitors.
People are interested in cowboys and Indians, and we have a wonderful Western heritage here, from the trails to the old Cowtown, the home of Wyatt Earp and Bat Masterson, and a great story to tell, but there is a reluctance for whatever reason to tell that.
Gene Countryman's career in travel and tourism in Kansas is a wall of memories, but his radio show is here and now, and a penchant for humor keeps his audience listening.
How long have you been listening to this program?
Oh, forever, 15 years.
Okay, well, say something if you can. We're taping the program. If you can say something really, really nice, it might end up on Hatteberg's People, something nice. It wouldn't be a total loss for you.
Well, I like your show, and I like hearing what's going on.
Now, Gene kept doing his show until 2010. In 2023, he passed away at age 86. I was fortunate enough, he interviewed me about a number of stories. He was a good guy, and his radio show touched a lot of people. And you know, sometimes now with the internet and everything else, we forget about radio. But he made a difference in the community, and people loved it.
Absolutely. And he displayed some of Kansas's best, and you displayed some of Kansas's best people. And so,
audio and visual.
Exactly. Okay, now we're going to go back to 1984. It's the year Apple introduced its Macintosh computer. The Cosby Show premiered to great acclaim. Ronald Reagan won the biggest landslide election in presidential history. And Phyllis Copt was making some history of her own.
Now, believe it or not, Phyllis was the first of her kind in Kansas. Take a look. Downtown Lawrence, Kansas on a spring afternoon. It's a time to stroll, or maybe just read, or perhaps a time to enjoy a New York-style hot dog from the first licensed street vendor this state has ever seen. Meet Phyllis Copt, a one-time English teacher turned hot dog vendor.
So you want sauerkraut too, eh? People come here to treat themselves. When they stop at the hot dog cart, they're stopping to give themselves a treat, and they're in a good mood, you know? Jennifer, hot dog, you bet.
Although street vendors are common in cities like New York, in Kansas, they're rare. Phyllis broke new ground when she gained her license in Lawrence in 1980. It took almost 2.5 years of research before she was granted the license, but for her, the wait was worth it.
Car mechanics, they see people who are not happy with cars, or something's wrong with the car. And doctors, usually there's something wrong. But you come to get a hot dog and you're coming to have a good time, and that's the fun of it for me, is just meeting people. Did you know that this is the 100th year anniversary of the Brooklyn Bridge?
I didn't, and neither did this customer.
They say it's more of an architectural and engineering feat than the pyramids.
It's just amazing at what you can learn by buying one of Phyllis's fabulous francs.
If you want to read it, I'll bring my newspaper someday, and you can sit and eat your hot dog and read about the Brooklyn Bridge.
Only in a college town can you get an education while eating a hot dog. No matter, hot dogs are popular with everyone. That's right, everyone.
It gets to be a lot of work on real busy days, like Saturdays are real busy. But yeah, there's that element of, hi, how are you? You know, what's new with you? Tell me something funny.
Super dog.
Okay.
Mustard. Onions. Kraut.
Okay.
Not too much kraut. Drive a bus, and I got to keep the people happy.
Oh, the bus driver. All right.
So how popular is the hot dog in Lawrence? Well, here's a bus driver who's having his 4th dog of the day, who's in a world-class hurry because he left his bus double parked. Well, a man has to do what a man has to do. From Lawrence, this is Larry Hatteberg.
Phyllis eventually gave up the hot dog business, and she and her husband, Lewis, of more than 50 years, still live in Douglas County. Lewis is an artist and is known for his Flint Hills landscapes. Anybody who paints the Flint Hills automatically like them because, you know, Flint Hills are one of our most beautiful areas.
They are beautiful. And the way you photograph them, you should see Larry's pictures of the Flint Hills.
Well, and
they're unbelievable.
Well, you're very kind. Her hot dog stand, just think of the neat people you would meet with a hot dog stand.
It would be one of the funnest jobs you'd ever have because you'd meet all different kinds of people.
It would.
Yeah.
You'd meet some real hot dogs.
You are so funny.
Yeah, this afternoon I am.
Some people love the fast life of parties and travel, and some are like Jack Dale.
Yeah, by 1984, Jack was still a relatively young man, but nevertheless, he had been there, done that. He loved the quiet, simple life.
Everything's moving too fast, really, for everybody. Just need to slow down a little bit. Maybe get in touch with the good Lord a little bit more.
Jack Dale gave up his life in California as a dance instructor, gave up his life as a hairstylist and as a fashion illustrator, gave up his sports car and the fancy clothes. He traded them all for this little shop in the middle of Kansas.
I suppose at the time I thought I was enjoying the finer things in life. But it's just what you finally end up finding out is the finer things in life, you know.
For him, those finer things now include boots waiting for repair, watching his dog search for shade, and the prairie wind blowing the grass.
Like I always said, I told my kids, if you want to get high, just get up early in the morning and go out and smell that fresh country air. That'll bring you up quicker than anything. The mornings are absolutely beautiful, cool nights. It's really, really a good place to live. It's just wonderful being in the country, it really is. Sure beats a concrete jungle. Well, you can't beat those birds either.
The American writer Thomas Wolfe said, "You can never go home again." Well, Dale believes you can. From near Stafford, this is Larry Hatteberg.
Jack later moved to New Mexico, but he requested that his ashes be scattered in Kansas. Now, he passed away 20 years after that interview of emphysema. He was 66 years old. And Jack's obituary says he was an artist who liked to design turn-of-the-century style clothing. As we've said before, there are fascinating people who really stay hidden from the public.
They do.
You know, you never know. You walk down the street, you want to knock on doors and say, hey, what's going on in your life?
What's your story?
Yeah, what's your story? What's happening in your world? And with him, We kind of did.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And that's what's the good thing about Hatteberg's people.
it is. We meet some fascinating folks.
Fascinating. By 2008, viral videos had become a thing. And Krista Eiler seemed to understand the new medium very well.
Now, Krista was a mom with an incredible voice. Along with her entertaining personality, Krista found an online niche that struck a chord, so to speak.
Where are we going?
That is Krista Eiler, better known as Funky Mama, on one of her YouTube videos. Now, Krista is also a mom, a former TV reporter, a singer-songwriter, and loves to participate in musical theater.
Down, baby, I can call my mommy. I've been a singer my whole life. And musical theater was always a part of my life that I just kind of put on the back burner and thought I needed a real job with insurance and all of that good things.
That real job would be as a TV reporter, which she was in Kansas City.
Realized there was packed ice on the roads. I didn't want to work every Christmas and Thanksgiving and every Kansas winter snowstorm that came my way. If you don't know me yet, I am Funky Mama. And what I do is I write rock and roll for kids and their families.
So Funky Mama was born.
Side, real fast. Down, down, baby, I can take a ride. Down, down, baby, I can call my mommy.
Utilizing her vast musical talents and her love for children, she performs high-energy shows like this one at Wonderscope in Kansas City.
Do what I do, do what I say. Just like a superhero, power from my bones, I got that magical, mystical. I want the music to be something that they can enjoy together, something they can move and groove to and just have fun. I mean, music is fun.
After the shows, she packs up and heads home. But nothing is ever easy, and it's all part of Krista's chaotic life.
I still have the mommy guilt of, I'm sure as a lot of working mothers do, that, oh, I'm leaving my children.
With 3 CDs now out, and her latest being Mood Juice, she is well known to families in Northeast Kansas. She even performed at the White House Easter egg hunt when she was very, very pregnant.
It's really very funny. We all acted like little kids because we were all kind of giggly about it. Another day and stop.
Then, at a recording session, doing her work in a studio is okay, but she knows her life is with the kids.
The pre-K kids are so willing to just give you love. Until we meet again. I'm Funky Mom, everybody. Have a great day.
Now, many years later, Krista says she has returned to news reporting in the Kansas City area, but she is still performing and making videos. And you can find them if you just search Funky Mama Music Channel on YouTube. Now everybody wants to go to their computer
Funky Mama.
And pull that up.
She was a funky mama.
She was a funky mama, probably still is, and
Yeah.
I'm glad she's still in the television business
Exactly.
at this point, too.
Exactly. Oh, well, that's all we have for this week. Our email address, by the way, hattebergspeople@kpts.org. If you have a question or a comment or a compliment, we love hearing from you. I'm Susan Peters.
And I'm Larry Hatteberg. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.